Speed gets attention. Luxury wins awards. Brand reputation fills marina slips. But none of those things change an industry. This list is about something different. These are the 7 offshore fishing boats that actually moved the needle. Boats that introduced ideas the market wasn't ready for, proved concepts the industry was skeptical of, and set expectations that builders are still chasing today. Some of them created entirely new categories. Others took a proven concept and executed it so well that everyone else spent decades trying to catch up. A few of these boats you'll recognize immediately. Others have been quietly overlooked. All of them left a mark on offshore fishing that's still visible in the boats leaving factories right now. This is not a list of the fastest, the most expensive, or the most famous. It's a list of the most consequential, and that makes it a very different conversation. Number 7. Freeman 33VH. For decades, offshore fishing boats followed a proven formula. If you wanted serious offshore performance, you bought a deep V monohull. It was the benchmark for handling rough water. And for many anglers, there simply wasn't a credible alternative. Catamarans existed, but they were often seen as a niche option rather than the future of offshore fishing. Then came the Freeman 33VH. Instead of trying to build a better monohull, Freeman challenged the assumption that a monohull was the only answer. The 33VH was designed around a twin-hull platform that combined impressive speed with exceptional stability, creating a boat that behaved very differently from what most offshore anglers were used to. Its biggest advantage became obvious the moment it stopped. While traditional monohulls naturally roll from side to side, the Freeman's catamaran design provided a noticeably more stable fishing platform. That meant less fatigue for anglers, greater comfort during long days offshore, and a deck that inspired confidence while fighting fish. The benefits didn't end there. The 33VH also demonstrated that a performance catamaran could cover long offshore runs efficiently while delivering the speed and ride quality serious fishermen demanded. It wasn't asking anglers to compromise, it was asking them to rethink what an offshore fishing boat could be. As more captains and owners experienced the boat, attitudes began to change. Catamarans were no longer viewed as unconventional alternatives. They became legitimate contenders in a market that had long been dominated by deep V designs. Other manufacturers expanded their own catamaran offerings. The Freeman 33VH didn't replace the deep V monohull, nor did it need to. Its influence came from expanding the industry's vision. It proved there was more than one path to exceptional offshore performance, encouraging builders to explore new ideas instead of refining old ones. That's why the Freeman 33VH earns the number 7 spot on this list. It didn't rewrite offshore fishing overnight, but it helped shape where offshore fishing is heading next. Innovation doesn't always mean creating something entirely new. Sometimes it means reminding an industry what really matters. And that's exactly what the next boat did. Number 6. Contender 25. By the late 1980s, offshore fishing boats were becoming increasingly versatile. Manufacturers were designing boats that could cruise with the family on Saturday and chase tuna on Sunday. Comfortable seating, extra amenities, and multi-purpose layouts appealed to a growing market, but many serious anglers felt something was being lost. The focus was shifting away from pure fishing performance. Contender saw the market differently. Rather than building a boat that tried to satisfy everyone, the company focused on the people who spent the most time offshore. The Contender 25 was designed with one objective above all else, to be an uncompromising fishing machine. Every major design decision reflected that philosophy. The layout was simple, open, and practical. Wide walkways allowed anglers to move freely around the boat while fighting fish. Storage was designed for fishing gear instead of unnecessary luxuries, and the deck remained uncluttered so nothing interfered with the job at hand. Combined with a fast, capable hull built for long offshore runs, the boat delivered exactly what serious fishermen were asking for: performance without distraction. What made the Contender 25 influential wasn't a revolutionary invention. Instead, it represented a shift in priorities. It reminded builders that there was still strong demand for boats designed primarily around the needs of anglers rather than the expectations of casual recreational boaters. That philosophy quickly gained momentum. As offshore fishing tournaments grew and more enthusiasts ventured farther from shore, manufacturers began placing greater emphasis on fishing-focused layouts, higher performance, and practical functionality. The modern offshore center console gradually evolved into a purpose-built platform where fishability often took precedence over luxury. Today, it's difficult to find a premium offshore center console that doesn't reflect at least some of the principles Contender helped popularize. Clean decks, efficient layouts, serious offshore capability, and a relentless focus on the angler have become defining characteristics of the segment. The Contender 25 didn't change offshore fishing by introducing a groundbreaking technology. It changed it by asking a simple question: what if every decision was made for the fisherman first? That philosophy continues to shape offshore boat design decades later. But building a better fishing boat only matters if people can actually afford to own one. The next boat transformed offshore fishing by opening the door to an entirely new generation of anglers. If you're getting value from this list, take a second to like the video and subscribe. Number 5. Aquasport 222. For much of offshore fishing's early history, heading beyond the sight of land wasn't something the average boater did. It often required larger, more expensive boats that were out of reach for many enthusiasts. Offshore fishing had earned a reputation as a sport reserved for those with deep pockets and specialized vessels. The Aquasport 222 center console helped change that. Introduced during a period when center consoles were gaining popularity, the 222cc offered something many anglers had been waiting for: a practical, capable offshore fishing boat that didn't demand the size or cost of a traditional sport fisher. It struck a balance between affordability, simplicity, and genuine offshore capability, making blue water fishing far more accessible than it had been before. Its straightforward design was part of its appeal. The center console layout provided unrestricted movement around the deck, giving anglers the freedom to fight fish from virtually any angle. The boat was large enough to handle offshore trips in suitable conditions, yet small enough to be easier to own, maintain, tow, and operate than many of the larger boats dominating the market. That combination resonated with thousands of fishermen. Suddenly, offshore fishing wasn't limited to tournament teams or wealthy owners. Weekend anglers could realistically own a boat capable of chasing kingfish, mahi-mahi, tuna, and other offshore species without stepping into a much higher price bracket. The success of boats like the Aquasport 222 also accelerated the rise of the center console as one of the most important segments in recreational boating. Manufacturers recognized the growing demand and began investing heavily in offshore center console designs, leading to rapid improvements in hull technology, layouts, and overall capability. Today, the idea of a 22-foot center console running offshore hardly raises an eyebrow. Across coastal communities, these boats have become a familiar sight at marinas and boat ramps, serving everyone from first-time offshore anglers to experienced fishermen. The Aquasport 222cc didn't create offshore fishing, nor did it introduce a revolutionary hull design. Its legacy is different and just as important. It made offshore fishing feel attainable. By lowering the barrier to entry, it brought countless new anglers into the sport and helped expand the offshore fishing community in ways that are still evident today. But making offshore fishing more accessible was only part of the story. The next boat proved that even a familiar design could be refined into something legendary. Number 4. SeaCraft 2.0 Open. By the late 1960s, the deep V hull had already proven it could transform offshore performance. The challenge was no longer convincing anglers that the concept worked. It was refining it into something exceptional. That was the opportunity SeaCraft seized with the 20 Open. Designed around the deep V principles pioneered by naval architect C. Raymond Hunt, the SeaCraft 20 wasn't trying to reinvent offshore fishing. Instead, it focused on doing one thing extraordinarily well: delivering an unmatched ride in rough water. Its hull became the boat's defining feature. The sharp entry sliced through waves with remarkable composure, while the deep V design softened impacts that would have punished flatter bottom boats. The result wasn't simply a smoother ride, it gave anglers the confidence to fish in conditions that might have otherwise sent them back to the dock. That confidence quickly earned the SeaCraft 20 a devoted following. Captains appreciated its predictable handling, offshore capability, and the reassuring way it behaved when conditions deteriorated. Rather than relying on horsepower alone, the boat demonstrated how thoughtful hull design could dramatically improve both performance and safety offshore. Its reputation spread largely through experience. Owners recommended it to fellow anglers, charter captains trusted it, and its rough water performance became the standard against which many other boats were measured. Over time, the SeaCraft name developed an almost legendary status among offshore fishermen, with many well-preserved examples still actively sought after decades after production. More importantly, the SeaCraft 20 influenced an entire generation of boat builders. Designers increasingly recognized that ride quality wasn't a luxury, it was a defining characteristic of a serious offshore boat. Future hull designs continued to evolve, but the pursuit of a softer, drier, and more confidence-inspiring ride became a priority throughout the industry. The SeaCraft 20 Open didn't introduce the deep V hull, nor did it create a new category of boat. Its achievement was something different. It refined a groundbreaking idea so successfully that it became a benchmark. It showed that true innovation isn't always about inventing something new. Sometimes it's about taking a proven concept and executing it so well that everyone else spends decades trying to match it. But even the finest hull design couldn't satisfy anglers forever. As offshore fishing matured, expectations began to change. Fishermen wanted capability without giving up comfort, and the next boat delivered exactly that. Number 3. Hatteras 4-1 Convertible. In offshore fishing's early years, capability came first. If a boat could handle rough seas and put anglers on fish, few people complained about cramped cabins, limited comfort, or long, exhausting days on the water. Fishing boats were built to work, not to spoil their crews. The Hatteras 4-1 Convertible changed that mindset. Introduced in the late 1960s, the 41 Convertible demonstrated that offshore anglers no longer had to choose between serious fishing capability and onboard comfort. It blended the rugged performance expected of a blue water fishing boat with the accommodations of a cruising yacht, creating a package that appealed to a new generation of offshore fishermen. Above deck, it remained a capable sport fishing platform with a spacious cockpit designed for chasing big game fish. Below deck, however, owners found something that had rarely been offered at this level before: a comfortable cabin with sleeping accommodations, a functional galley, and the amenities needed for extended trips offshore. The boat wasn't just designed to reach distant fishing grounds. It was designed to make the journey enjoyable. That combination fundamentally changed buyer expectations. As offshore fishing became more popular, owners increasingly wanted boats that could serve multiple roles. They wanted to compete in tournaments, spend weekends with family, and undertake longer adventures without sacrificing comfort. The Hatteras 41 Convertible proved that these goals weren't mutually exclusive. Its success influenced builders across the industry. Convertible sport fishing yachts became larger, more refined, and increasingly luxurious, while still retaining the fishing features that serious anglers demanded. Over time, comfort evolved from a welcome bonus into an expected standard, particularly in the premium offshore market. Today, it's difficult to imagine a modern sport fishing yacht without well-appointed interiors, private sleeping quarters, air conditioning, full galleys, and other amenities that make extended offshore trips practical. While technology and styling have advanced dramatically, the expectation that a serious fishing boat should also provide comfort owes much to pioneers like the Hatteras 41 Convertible. The Hatteras 41 didn't redefine offshore fishing through a revolutionary hull or a radical new concept. Instead, it redefined what owners expected from a fishing boat. It proved that capability and comfort could coexist, forever changing the direction of premium sport fishing design. But before anglers could expect luxury offshore, someone first had to prove that a completely different hull design could conquer rough water. That proof came from one of the most iconic boats ever built. Number 2. Bertram 31. A revolutionary idea means very little until it works in the real world. Before the Bertram 31, naval architect C. Raymond Hunt had already developed the deep V hull concept, arguing that it could deliver a smoother, more controlled ride in rough seas. The theory was promising, but offshore fishermen needed more than theory. They needed proof. The Bertram 31 provided it. Inspired by Hunt's Deep V design principles, the Bertram 31 demonstrated that an offshore boat could run faster, safer, and with greater confidence through challenging conditions than many of its contemporaries. Instead of pounding violently over waves, the hull cut through them with a level of control that immediately caught the attention of experienced captains. Its reputation grew rapidly after the Deep V design proved itself in offshore racing, particularly during the famous Miami to Nassau powerboat race. That success wasn't just a racing victory, it was a public demonstration that the Deep V hull could outperform conventional designs in demanding offshore conditions. The lesson was impossible for the marine industry to ignore. As more anglers and boat builders experienced what the Bertram 31 could do, the industry's thinking began to change. The Deep V hull was no longer viewed as an experimental concept. It became the benchmark for offshore performance. Manufacturers across the world began adopting similar hull designs, refining them for different sizes and applications while embracing the same fundamental principles. The Bertram 31 also proved remarkably versatile. Whether chasing billfish offshore, running to distant reefs, or serving as a dependable sport fishing platform, it earned a reputation for handling conditions that many boats of its era would rather avoid. Even decades after production ended, well-maintained examples remain highly respected, with many still actively fishing today, a testament to the soundness of the original design. The Bertram 31 didn't invent the Deep V hull, and that's precisely what makes its story so important. Innovation often begins with an idea, but history remembers the product that convinces the world the idea actually works. The Bertram 31 transformed a promising design into an industry standard, influencing generations of offshore boats that followed. Number 1. Rybovich 34. In the early 20th century, offshore anglers didn't have purpose-built boats for pursuing big game fish. Most made do with commercial vessels, cruisers, or utility boats that had been adapted for fishing. They worked, but they weren't designed around the unique demands of offshore anglers. Fighting large fish, moving freely around the cockpit, storing tackle, and spending long days at sea often meant working around the boat instead of with it. John Rybovich believed there was a better approach. Rather than adapting an existing design, he built boats specifically for offshore sport fishing. Every decision centered on the angler. The cockpit became a dedicated workspace instead of an afterthought. The layout was designed to support fighting fish efficiently, while the boat's balance and overall design reflected the realities of spending long days chasing game fish offshore. That philosophy proved revolutionary. The Rybovich 34 wasn't the fastest boat ever built, nor the largest or the most technologically advanced. Its importance lies somewhere far greater. It helped establish sport fishing as a distinct category of boat building, and gave future designers a blueprint they would spend decades refining. The boats on this list didn't just catch fish. They changed how offshore fishing boats are built, used, and understood. Their influence continues to shape the boats leaving factories today. If you enjoyed this breakdown, like the video, subscribe to Boat Verdict, and turn on notification.